Go through building or rebuilding my net worth component here. I just want to show you. So I've been working on this for about the past 3 days, and my goal has been to make this really compelling and interesting for people because it's going to be the first section that they come to when they after they go through the onboarding process. They're going to go to net worth because it's really important for us to calculate that, and then that'll play out throughout the rest of the app. So my goal has been to make it visually compelling and grab some interesting things that I can show them. So for instance, I've been working on the calculation for their debt. So if I click on liability here, and if I move their debt, you can see how it'll show how long it'll take for them to pay off their mortgage. So that's their mortgage payments, and they can put in those details and see when they'll be debt free according to their interest rates and things like that. Similarly, with assets, they could input their TFSA amount, and it should go up. Hopefully it doesn't crash. The chart's not very well formatted. So right now I've just been focusing more on the logic. So you can see there's quite a few issues there. But then in the layout, I'm realizing that it's a bit too much. It's just way too much for somebody to come to this and have like, boom, enter all your information and then slide all these dials. And so I'm trying to rethink how I'm going to design this so that the person can walk through in a wizard piece by piece, and I can gather the information. Then I can show it to them and they can feel like they can manipulate it and understand what's going on. So I have to do a pretty large redesign of this in order to get it the way that I want it. So I've spent a few hours in Adobe XD. I'll just pop over to that, building out an idea or a way of formatting it. So I'll just show you what I've got here. And this will be helpful because it's going to be really similar to what you guys are doing. We want to have them come in and it'll explain what they're doing, say that we're calculating their net worth and why we're doing it, and that let's get started. So one of the key things is I want to make this component that gathers their net worth, but I want to make it as reusable as possible because I want to have as little code as possible. So that's what I'm thinking about as I design it. Now we come in, they would enter their short-term cash, the value of any cash investments. They could add more if they wanted. Then they can add any long-term investments. On the left-hand side, you can see they could click if it's TFSA, RRSP, or Registered Education Savings Plan. And then this will all be going into their net worth, which they'll see later. So they can slowly click through, add in their details, add in their property details, and then similarly with their liabilities, they can add that, put in their amortization. All these numbers are just filler numbers, so don't worry if they don't make any sense. So they'll go through here, then they could enter their mortgage details. And so this will be interesting because this could play really well into the spending. So we could gather the mortgage payments, and then I could be passing that over to the spending section, which could then play into your charts as well. So they'll go through here. Then I'm thinking rather than the way I had it before, where it was a bit too much, here we'll have a sub or a control panel below, and then they can see the chart, and the chart is a projection of their net worth over the next 30 years or so. And so they can see how it'll play out. But then they could click on, say, one of the items. They click on checking or property, say this is a property one. And if they change any of these dials, they'll see just how that one influences the whole chart. And so I'm thinking this is the way that I'd like to do it. So I'm going to start redesigning things so that it uses this approach. Now you'll notice here that this square bar or it's not square bar, this little box thing that gathers the information, that's really similar to the previous click-through that we were using. And so we want to use that one component as much as possible. So that's what I'm thinking about. We also have to think about how we're going to be designing the data storage for the assets so that we can gather all the information, but then access it and change it and manipulate it. And so if we go into here, we'll go back, just sort of review it. I'm looking at what is the data that we're gathering that we'll see time and again on each of the different assets and liabilities. So we have a value. So every item has to have a current value, but then the value could have different names. So that's something we'll have to keep into, or this label could be a little different. then we'll have an interest rate of some sort. So rate of return, but also the interest rate that they have to pay on their debts. So we've got the name and the interest rate, or the value and the interest rate. Then on some of them, we have a purchase value, which could be helpful too for, say, a mortgage. We could say find out the initial mortgage amount and then the current mortgage amount. So that's similar as well. And then we've got the return on investment. Okay, so similarly over here, we've got that. Then one that's a little, we've got amortization now. So this is showing up in the debt that we've got the length of the term of the loan. Then we've got the start year. So we've got quite a few different things that we're trying to gather in order to build this out. So we need to think, how are we going to store that data so that we can access it? Now, I'll kind of start by just building out the net worth section. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into I'll open this up, just see how it is. Okay. So I'm going to go into my VSC and I'm going to create a new folder called new net worth. So I'm just going to keep the old one that I'd already built. I'm also going to create a new branch. Now it looks like I've got that. I'll just merge this branch back into the main. So I'll commit it. And then I will merge this in and create a new branch. Perfect. And I'll call this new net worth because this is the new version of the net worth that I'm building. So then I will go into pages. So sorry, this is pretty similar to what we did before. And then I will go into layout and I'll change all occurrences of net worth to just new net worth. There, hopefully that will work. So let's see here. I hope it doesn't collapse. Oh, it does. Here we are. Just got to make sure it's running. I think I'll zoom in a little on the code for you guys because I like it zoomed out, but that might be a bit overwhelming for you to see. So let's see here if it's working. Oh. So we'll have a really similar landing page. I won't have the charts in initially. And then we're going to start working on that component that will be the basis of our wizard. And in my dream scenario, I would just build one component that then I would have different data that I could somehow map through and render that component each time so it looks a little different, so that way we can reduce code as much as possible. My dream is to just have as little code as possible because it just makes it so much easier to find things and manage it. But the problem is then it can start to become quite a bit more complicated when you get carried away with reducing code. So let's see, it doesn't seem like it's working, but it should be. It's so much slower when I'm recording, so sorry about that. Maybe while that's doing that, I'll just start building out the layout. So I'm just going to copy all the code originally from the first net worth one, go into new net worth, and I'll call this new net worth.js. We'll go into here, whoops, into this one, put all of that, and then I'll clear out everything so that I just have a blank slate. And then I don't think we'll need much of that. We'll be having a header eventually, but for now, let's see, is it still having trouble? Huh. Okay. So then I'm going to create a components. And I'll do the same thing with the header. I'll just steal all this. It's still okay. I give up. Something's wrong. Okay, now this should not work. There we go. I'll close all of this. Okay, so we've got the net worth component, which is really rendering nothing right now. We'll maybe start with some state. So the initial thing that we're going to be wanting to build out is sort of this welcome here, or maybe we'll just build the wizard. We'll call it the wizard. And where was that? This welcome page. So we'll have the welcome page, then the buttons, and then we're going to try to build out this component, which will then gather the information. So when we're doing the component, we'll have to first, once we start building that, we're going to have to decide on the structure of our data and how we're going to be passing that to the reducer in Redux in order to then be building these range bars. So let's see, this is still not working. This is really frustrating. I don't know why that is. Okay, so let's just go like that, take that out. So before I managed to really reduce down the code, I just had the control panel, and then I had a little pop-up wizard thing that I was working with when people wanted to add details. So in this case, I'm going to try to do something similar. So I'll also make another control panel. So this will be that base section. Now I don't know if I'll need that initially though. Let's see, is it still not loading? Oh my goodness. Okay, I just give up. I don't know. So it looked like it was close to something. I really don't want to be wasting your guys' time with this. I guess you can just fast forward through it, so that's nice. But I want to make sure that what I'm making here is useful to you. Oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my mind. Okay, I stop. I'm going to stop. Holy fuck.